Hey guys, my name's Elizabeth and let's talk about books. Alright, so this is another installment. I think this is the fourth one. Maths would tell me that this is number 4. So this is the fourth installment in what I've been reading this year. I'm trying to do them in chunks of 5 because I've read a lot and also I tend to waffle. So I'm going to make these like bite-sized videos and they're probably still 20 minutes each. So if you want to see the rest in this series, it's linked somewhere. You'll find it. I believe in you and your ability to YouTube. If you want to read reviews about different books or just read reviews instead of YouTube, or want to see what I have to say when I have time to like think and spell check, because I'm better at that than this speaking business, link to my blog is in the description. I write book reviews and skincare reviews, so that might be interesting for you as well. Who knows? Anyway, let's kick on with some more of what I've been reading this year. So at this point in time, it's March, April 2022, and I was immediately post major surgery, so I was doing not much more than getting off the couch to pee and make coffee. So I picked up Kiki's delivery service, which was gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. This translation was published in July 2021. It is translated by, we should always acknowledge the translator, Emily Balistreri. Look at this end paper, it's so pretty. That's not why we're here. We're not here to admire the books, although they are pretty. It's a kid's book. There is illustrations, there's a little bit of Gigi, every chapter heading. So I picked that up basically because I love Kiki's Delivery Service, the movie, and I wanted to read the source material. So it was published in July 2021. I read it in one day in April, and it was definitely just wholesome kids book vibes. What have I said? Wholesome and sweet without any of the existential crisis that happens in the film version. It's definitely, this is just, each chapter is a little story about what happens with Kiki and Gigi when they leave home, and at the end of the book it's been a year since she left home and she can go home and see her mum and tell her and dad and tell them the adventures that she had starting her delivery business. And if you know young readers, once they can read a book this length without many pictures, so I'm guessing year 2 or a bit older if they're slower to the love of reading, which I guess some kids are, highly recommend that you sit them down with this book. They will love it and you will love reading it with them and talking about Kiki and Gigi. The Leviathan by Rosie Andrews. This was published in February and I read it in April. I picked it up because the cover's cool. That's basically it. I got 2 words into the blurb. This is Norfolk 1643, and I went, you know what, yep, that'll do. But I didn't even read the blurb. And you know what, it's the story of a bloke who comes home. He's been away at war, I want to say. With civil war tearing England apart, reluctant soldier Thomas Treadwater is summoned home by his sister, who accuses a new servant of improper conduct with their widowed father. By the time Thomas returns, his father is insensible, felled by a stroke. Their new servant is in prison, facing charges of witchcraft. Now, obviously it's set during the witch craze in England, when they had witchfinders accusing and assizes trying women for witchcraft, and some of them executed. So that's the period of time we're talking about here. But basically everything that was in the blurb is the plot. Like, it was beautiful and gothic and moody, and there's like this mystery that's supernatural, but I couldn't find the plot, and it would have been really cool if it had a plot as well as the mood. So definitely if you want some gothic vibes, this is cool. If you want something with a story, yeah, give it a miss. What have I written here? The title references Thomas Hobbes, that's, yeah, and also the Leviathan of the Bible. And one of the main side characters is the early modern poet John Milton. But apart from that, I couldn't see any reference to Hobbes. Now, I'm not particularly familiar with Hobbes or philosophers in general. So, I mean, it could have been there the whole time and I missed it. But all I saw was Milton. Why? I guess because that's someone we recognise as being early modern. Did he need to be there? Absolutely no. Disappointing, 2 Goodreads stars because I didn't hate it enough. Basically, I've finished it, so it gets a 2. We're up to book 18, which is 4,000 Weeks, Time and How to Use It by Oliver Burkeman. This was recommended to me from multiple different sources in my internet life, which surprised me, and that's intrigued me, was when it came from, like, if it comes from one place where you're expecting book recommendations, that's okay, but then when it came from over here, that's a bit left field, and I thought, oh, time to have a look at this one. I've said I picked this up because I was hearing good things about it from various fans of the how to do life genre. That's what my kid calls these books, is how to life. So this was published in August last year. Actually, it's exactly 1 year tomorrow from when I'm filming this, and I read it in April. The premise of this book is not how to get things done, it's how to sit with the knowledge that whatever choices you make in life, you're neglecting the right things. So once you pick a path, you've cut off other paths in your life, and that's okay. And you need to be okay with that, because otherwise you're just going to stress yourself into your death with FOMO. But this is saying just live with it. It's okay. Like, the path that you've picked is okay. And if it's not, step off your path and pick a new one. But you only get one. So make it count. Make sure you're neglecting the right things in service of what you were doing right now. And I loved it because at 40, that's where I'm at in my life, is I've come to the point where it's like, well, the things, like all the potential that I had at 18, it has diminished. And so that's fine, that's cool, that's where we are. It may have had more impact on me in my 20s, or if I was somebody who was like particularly goal oriented and felt like I needed to like be a hustling millennial kind of creature. That ain't me. I've always been the joy of missing out. I mean, I'm well settled into this mindset already. So I actually really enjoyed it. Basically, this book was my opinion reflected back to me in a articulated, cogently book. And I recommend it if you are a fan of the How to Life genre, or if you need to learn the joy of missing out. Alright, number 19 is The Art of Reading by Damon Young. This was published in March 2016 and I read it in April. I follow Damon Young on Twitter and I was intrigued to read one of his philosophy books, so this is one that I found on holiday around my birthday, and so this is the one that I read. So it is a philosophy book and it's how authors relate to philosophy. Each chapter is an Aristotelian virtue, which I guess you'd be familiar with if you'd studied Aristotle or philosophy. I have not. So the virtues are basically curiosity, to read widely and deeply, patience, to give the text the time it deserves even when it's uncomfortable, courage to read even when it's disquieting or ambiguous, pride, which I quote here, a careful critical intellect unhampered by deferential lowliness, temperance, which is making sure your literature diet is a mixture of chocolate and healthy food. Now that's a quote from my English teacher in my HSC. She said that you need to eat healthy food, you need to read healthy books and chocolate books. And justice, not selling a work or author short just because you're predisposed to dislike them, or vice versa. So that's how Young has structured his book according to the Aristotelian virtues, and this genuinely impacted the way that I think about reading, and definitely inspired me to learn more about philosophy. We were just talking about the joy of missing out, but I want to learn all the things, so we're working with that. Also, this tickled me so much. I still laugh every time I think of it. One of the chapters, the chapter on justice, which was not selling a work or an author short, is titled No, I Said No, I Won't No, which you'll recognise as a play on Ulysses by James Joyce. The chapter is framed by Virginia Woolf just straight up hating Ulysses, even though she was friends with Joyce. And then she actually read it and liked it. The moral of the story. I really did like this book, 4 stars from me. And number 20 so far this year is Persuasion by Jane Austen. Now, I actually listened to this because as part of my Audible subscription, the audiobook for Persuasion was free, I think, or I was happy to spend a credit on it. And it only took me two days to listen to. I flew through it, so this was in April. This was obviously published in December 1817. And given the movie that just came out, we're all talking about Persuasion. Literally the only thing that I've written here is 5 Goodreads stars. I will never not love this story. Now, the story of Persuasion, if you don't know, is about Anne Elliot, who is overlooked by her family. She's basically redundant to her father and her sister. She's has a close friend who persuaded her out of an engagement. And 7 years later, her family has to close up their house and rent it out because they need the money. Her father and her sister move to Bath, and Anne kind of flits about between places while she's finding a place for herself in the world. But in the course of these events, she runs into her ex-fiancé, Wentworth. And a lot of the book is Anne and her interior world, which is why it makes a shit movie. We're not talking about Netflix. Anyway, it's about her interiority, her thoughts, and her coming around to realizing that her ex-fiancé is someone that she still really cares for, but he also cares for her. Obviously, the quote on the back, I'm half agony, half hope. Like, it's a beautiful romance. Hello, it's editing Elizabeth, realizing that the end of that footage is corrupted and I can't get it back. So here I am to say, read Persuasion, obviously. And thanks for sticking with these videos. Subscribe if you want to see more of what I've been reading and other nonsense that I put up on this channel, and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram because that's where I like to chat with people. Have an excellent day. Bye.